You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, what's good, everybody? It's Tuesday, July 30th. I won't lie about this. I'm stunned I could peel Jay Rosehill away from the TV. You're Mr. Summer Olympics right now.
I am. I've been watching a little bit. I missed last night and caught up on the highlights, but man, there's always some jam with the Canadian team here and there, but this swimmer is special from last night. It seems like winning like by ridiculous lengths. Did you watch?
I saw the highlights, the summer of summer, right? Like, I think that's so cool. Like, I mean, especially when you're like 17 blowing away the field. Like, think about that, right?
Yeah, Summer McIntosh, she just annihilated everybody in the 400 medley, and she's just who you want to kind of root for. Just an absolute sweet kid, head on the shoulders, dominant, strong, killing it. Lots of athletes. The girl in judo won the gold too. I watched that, but I try to stay on it. I keep seeing replays and stuff because of the time change and whatnot. But I still got that. That patriotism when we get these kids, and they are kids, man. The Olympics are freakishly young kids doing freakishly unbelievable things athletically. But when it's a Canadian kid blowing people out of the water, I mean, that was like a Phelps-like dominance. So going to keep an eye on her and see if she can keep dominating.
This is my official motion to get ball hockey in the Summer Olympics. I don't know about you if you're flicking around the channels during the daytime. I think they're 6 hours ahead here in the Eastern time zone. And some of the sports they put on TV, like fencing, I don't know. Like it doesn't make sense why some of these sports are allowed to be in the Olympics. Some are, others aren't. Like it's baffling to me at times.
Yeah, there's some weird. I was watching fencing and then I was like Googling what's the cord on the back of them for and what are the points and stuff. You learn a little bit, but yeah, I know there's some head scratchers. I think they were talking about taking like wrestling out, or they did, or something like
I don't
that.
know.
And like that's like
Yeah.
the original Greek, what the original one. Yeah, but like you say, there's some silly stuff. But go back to like the Winter Olympics. Remember that like skiing, dancing, synchronized skiing or some shit. Like that was embarrassing. There's been some weird ones, but hey, it's a tough gig to run, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. The big thing I'll be watching this summer before we transition to some Maple Leafs talk will be basketball. I don't know if you had a chance to catch your boy LeBron James in action on the Dream Team, but they're just going to crush everybody. I don't think Canada stands a chance. Maybe they're in the gold medal final, but it really is cool. Canadian basketball and the meteoric rise, even dating back. Like I was a Vince Carter disciple, if you will, where I started watching as soon as the Raptors pretty much got to Toronto. Then Vince Carter came in. And he changed the trajectory of basketball in this country, and the momentum just continues. So certainly watching that. And how could you not watch what's going on with the women's soccer team right now? They're back at 0 points after 2 wins, and crazily enough, like they can move on to the next round if they win their next match against Colombia.
Yeah, that is wild. They had that massive deficit they got put behind them. So if they can bounce back from that, they're legit. But I mean, they've been legit before. They're front runners. It's pretty impressive, man. Like soccer on the world stage for Canadian women to be up there that high is absolutely stunning. We don't really play it to the level that so many other countries and continents do, and they're up there. So that's impressive. And a little Spygate going on with the drones, so kind of embarrassing. I don't know why the hell they would even risk that. Like, how valuable is the information you're going to get from some other team's practice? I don't understand, but they got penalized heavily, which everyone thought would pretty much end their chances, and they are that good. They're battling back and might give themselves a chance, which is pretty cool.
Every time we see a scandal at the Olympics specifically, I just wait for the documentary to follow like 10 years from now, where we really like, oh yeah, remember that when they flew a drone over the New Zealand practice? We're going to find out in 10 years what happened behind the scenes, because the players have been consistent with saying that they're not cheaters, but obviously some shit was happening behind the scenes, because I don't know why you would even contemplate doing that, especially against like a 21 ranked team in the world. It's just a bizarre situation, but they're fighting. They got emotional after the last game. They went into the stands to talk to their family and celebrate. And it would be such an epic story if the women had nothing to do with this and they come back and win this tournament somehow.
That would be amazing, especially if they got like vindicated. I don't know. How do you get caught? We're having a drone. How do you know for sure it's them and what they're doing, and then slap that sanction on them so fast? Interesting, but obviously, like I said, they're proven that they're good enough to overcome even a big deficit in the Olympics, and we'll see what they can do. But I mean, that would be a story for the ages if they can pull something off.
Big story for the ages, Rosie, here in Toronto. Joe Bowen and Jim Ralph back in the mix for another season on the radio. Producer Vic and I had a chance to work closely with these two in our time doing the Leafs radio broadcasts. Absolute beauties. It's one of the highlights of my career, quite honestly. Standing beside, sitting beside at times, them throwing a break, throwing to me. I thought it was so cool to work with them those 2 seasons. So it's great to have them back in the mix next year.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if people from the outside kind of appreciate, their voices and what they are to, the GTA area and the fans of the Leafs and who listen specifically to the Leafs, but they become kind of staples. And, on a personal level, they're both unbelievably good guys. We hang out on the plane with them and tell stories and shoot the shit a little bit. And both really solid guys. They get along awesome and switch hit each other really good. And Bowen's obviously got his famous calls that he's made at the right times and created quite the little niche for themselves. So it's great to see them get extended. Good to see good things happen to good people in the hockey world.
Ralphie's an absolute beauty. Weirdly enough, I had a chance to work with his son Jesse at NHL Network Radio, and Jesse's actually an aspiring comedian. And anybody who knows Jim Ralph, the guy's funny as shit, dark humor, and I just love the guy. I've had a really, really good relationship with Ralphie for a long time. He's a beauty, you know it.
I didn't know his kid was in the mix. That's cool, but
Yeah.
a comedian too. That's not an easy gig. So that's something extra to know. But I'd love to run into those boys and share a beer again and catch up.
Never know. One day, maybe we're thinking of doing a nation vacation this upcoming season, and you'll have to stay tuned to find out where. But we sprinkled some foreshadowing, I think, in the last couple podcasts, maybe with today's guests as well. But first and foremost, I wanted to tell you about the Nation Gear Out of Office Summer Sale. It's here, and it's only lasting 1 week, so make sure you act quickly. Order now, and you'll get 20% off your entire order. That's 20%. Additionally, if you spend over $200, we'll throw in free shipping as well. Head on over to nationgear.ca. That's nationgear.ca and grab your favorite gear before it is gone, Rosie. Remember, this sale is only for 1 week only, so don't miss out, my man.
I won't. I want to get some stuff sent to my house as well. I can never have enough of that stuff. And those damn mugs. We should put in a request right now. I want a mug. You
How
got
great
it.
are these things, eh? Just a mid-season request, and all of a sudden we had mugs. Yeah, we got to get you some. They're available on nationgear.ca if you want Leafs Nation mugs or Leafs Morning Take mugs. Luke Schenn's coming on today. Another visit for Schenner, eh?
The human eraser. I know. Well, it's always funny having a guy on that's in the midst of playing and has a contract and is on a team and is on a run. And I know I can pick his brain for so much, but we'll see how much he gives us. I know he's like at his kids' hockeys. I don't know. We'll see if we got connection problems, but we know those Schenn boys struggle with the connectivity issues. We'll see, but I want to pick his brain a little bit too, because I know that guy and how he gets involved in everything, and with the accusations that the Preds made this year, unbelievable. I want to pick his brain a little bit. We'll see how much he gives us, though.
They got to be very horned up, and there's rumors running rampant that Luke Schenn had a big say in getting Steven Stamkos to Nashville. Of course, played with him, won the cup with him in Tampa. So Luke Schenn's coming up. And we should also mention we had some time to spend with Anthony Stolarz, new Leafs netminder, one of your former teammates in the Philadelphia Flyers system. That interview, Rosie, is going to drop on Thursday. That dude's an absolute beauty. We spent about, 10, 15 minutes with him yesterday?
Yeah, we had to start over because I butchered a couple things. But no, I remember playing with that kid. He was quite a bit younger then. It's been a little while, but no, totally mature, head on his shoulders. And after talking to him, I kind of realized that guy does have a good head for this market. He just simplifies it in his head. He's just like, well, whatever. I got to go and do my job, stop the pucks. I'm going to have my good nights. I'm going to have my bad nights, but nothing changes no matter what city you're in. I don't think he's going to get too caught up, hopefully, in the rigmarole of that market and the media and the pressure and the swirling rumors and thoughts and analytics and all the BS. I'm pretty sure he's got a pretty solid head on his shoulders to just kind of let that stuff dissipate in his mind and just allow himself to play goalie. And with him and Woolsey in there, it's kind of one of the things I'm excited about. How hard can these two switch hit the crease, and how much success can they have?
Two dudes in a rocking chair. Looking forward to that tandem coming up here in the fall. So Anthony Stolarz coming up on Thursday. Luke Schenn in about 5 minutes at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Leafs Morning Take. Wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit the LeafsNation.com. The opening segment is brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. For a good time, find Greta, 590 King Street West, weekly specials, live sports, over 60-plus arcade games. Go big. Go to Greta Bar YYZ. So a bit of a family reunion. How about this? Alex Nylander signs a one-year AHL deal. Important to stress that. He signs with the Marlies. He's 26, 121 career NHL games, has 25 goals, and of course, an 8th overall pick in 2016. But a family reunion, Rosie.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. 8th overall, like what a monster pick, right? And hasn't really panned out anywhere he's gone. But you look at his numbers, and they're not bad at all. Like, I mean, if you're comparing them to other 8th overall picks, maybe not as much, but capable of playing. I know he got hurt there in 2020, 2021. I don't think he even played with a rough knee injury there in the playoffs of 2020. So missed a whole season, missed a step. But the point is, this cost the Maple Leafs absolutely nothing. An American Hockey League contract? Are you kidding me? For a former 8th rounder, there's the Nylander angle. Obviously, his brother's there. But if you need a guy or want to try a guy out, or we run into injury problems, which happens to teams all the time, there's a cheap guy that is potentially capable to, who knows, explode, like really find his stride. I mean, it's kind of a long shot to say that will or could happen, but these things do happen, and he's right there, in the pocket on the Marlies. I think he'll be a great asset for them, obviously. But again, if we run into trouble, bodies and whatnot, there's a guy that you could give a shot to and see what happens, because obviously he had the sky being the limit for him as far as his potential in the NHL. Hasn't quite filled it, but is still young, 26 years old. Another shot for him here in Toronto, and I kind of hope he gets a look.
Low risk, high reward. It reminds me a lot of the Kiefer Bellows situation from last year, although, again, he had an AHL contract. So if Nylander were to play in the NHL, they got to figure out an NHL deal. But I think the big kicker here is what happened after he was traded from Pittsburgh to Columbus around last year's trade deadline, where he picked up 11 goals, 15 points in 23 games. He had some spurt. I know I cover fantasy hockey, a 2-week spurt where he scored 6 or 7 goals. And that's why I think there's the intrigue. People like you feel maybe there's another step in his career, and maybe he found it a bit in Columbus, and people were stunned that Columbus moved on, and effectively 32 NHL teams passed on Alex Nylander, and that's why he'll find himself in the American Hockey League. But again, who knows, maybe reuniting with his brother in the same organization gets him to that next step. But a big thing with him has been finding consistency at the NHL level. I think to a degree he has proven the ability to produce, but like most players of that threshold on the periphery of the NHL, they struggle to find consistency.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys where, are you going to take your brother's job? No, you're not. You're not playing on that line. You're not getting those minutes. So what can you do with what you get in the NHL? He's probably going to be, a front runner on the Marlies, put up some points, try to develop his game, but then you step up to that NHL level, and he's kind of, when you talk about Nick Robertson, he's had trouble coming up and staying consistent. So what can you do to stay in the league? Obviously, you're a skill guy, but you're just at this point in time, until something very drastic happens, you're not going to go take your brother's spot in the lineup. So what can you do on that third line, on that fourth line? Can you put up some points? Can you find some jam with somebody? Can you get a look with a couple other guys and just move your way up the depth chart? Very difficult to do, but you got to find all those little intangible things. If you get a chance to prove that I need to be in this lineup and I'm a big benefit to this team for all these reasons, and if you can do that, then you can start trying to find your consistency and putting up the real points and seeing what you can make of it. But a tall task, no doubt, and he's not the only guy who finds himself in that position.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's typical Toronto, and maybe because of the name brand, people are overhyping this addition. But I think it can't be understated again. Just the second half or post deadline run he had, granted with a lowly Columbus Blue Jackets team, but every time that happens, the next GM's like, what if? And I think specifically, as you mentioned in Toronto, there's opportunity. Yeah, he's not going to start in the NHL, but there's certainly opportunity. There could be movement. And I think if Nylander produces and finds a way to make a difference and be a storyline, then they're going to have to do something about it, right?
Yeah, we'll see. And I mean, it's usually not a huge deal. Like if he's the next guy to get called up in some emergency situation to ink him up, you can do that in a few minutes, put an NHL contract together, league minimum for this, that. depending on what their contract situation is. But that's not hard to do. The thing is just playing over the heads of everyone else with an NHL contract, playing over the heads of the prospects and the other draft picks and whatnot. But at the end of the day, this is a results-oriented league, and if you're the best player down there and they need a guy like you, they're going to call you up. It's just kind of a question mark on, like you said, had some success recently and then gets passed over by every single NHL team. Makes me kind of wonder, like, why wouldn't, like you say, low risk, potential reward is high, and it's like, why did everyone else pass on him? Is there something we're missing? Do we not know something? Is his knee buggered up? Is it a personal thing, attitude? I don't know, but we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah, really weird. I mean, he was a huge talking point in the last 20, 25 games, obviously, of the regular season, and found his way, was playing bona fide top 6 minutes for Columbus. Granted, they were a cellar dweller, but still, like, numbers are numbers. And to put up 11 goals in 23 games, and for a team rebuilding like Columbus just to move on, granted, there was a GM change and all that. Very, very peculiar. And don't forget as well, just because he signs an AHL deal doesn't restrict him from signing a PTO or signing an NHL contract elsewhere. So unfortunately, this could be a moot conversation in like a month from now when training camp rolls around in the NHL. But Alex Nylander, a 1-year deal, AHL deal with the Marlies, and certainly it just filters into the conversation as we await Luke Schenn's arrival, where, there's a bunch of guys with opportunity to do something. And that's, I don't know about you, like, as we get closer and closer to training camp, the season opener, by the way, 71 days away in Montreal on October 9th. That's the biggest fight in camp for me. Who is going to seize the moment? Some of the bigger players, we know where they're going to be, but guys like Nick Robertson, Cowan, Minton, Dewar, like, there's going to be a lot of bubble guys fighting for roster spots. And at the end of the day, somebody's going to win out here.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the talking points of training camp that I'm looking forward to. Like, I've been at camps before where it's just like, okay, like, what's the point of all these guys being at this camp? You know what your team is and you know how this is going to play out. And then there's other camps I've been to where they're like, hey, somebody wow us. Like, there's multiple jobs open. There's people that can step into this team and into this league if they want, and it's opportunity time. And I think that with the depth on forward for the Maple Leafs, there are opportunities for players, and you can rattle off a whole bunch of names, man. And they're guys with some tenure. There's guys who have been kind of up and down. There's guys that are looking to solidify themselves. There's young guys coming in who, I don't know, I almost have my money on, like, an Easton Cowan, even though he's so bloody young. That's like the one knock on him. But a guy like him could just step in. Like, remember the camp he had last year? Him and Minton both were like the standouts, and were the best players in camp and preseason. And this year it could be, enough development, enough maturity to say, you're in, you got the spot, you got the opening night roster, and show us what you can do with it. So the fight for those spots is going to be kind of interesting, because it's not one of those years where they're just like, yeah, let's just do a token camp here. Every one of you is not going to be on the team, so let's just go through the motions here. Not a very exciting camp, but it's not the case this year for the Leafs.
And as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, there's obviously roster spots available, but like, the depth has to be sorted out. I think it's quite clear and definitive, and I'm sure the Brain Trust knows this as well. They're not as deep as other perennial contenders. I think what's likely to happen, they're going to figure out off the bat here in training camp what's working, what's not, who fits, who doesn't, and then reassess whether it's an early season trade, whether it's trucking right along, whether it's bringing in a Cowan at least the first 9 games, see what he can do. Minton, ditto for him. You can slow play this whole situation where the depth you can really address as you get closer and closer to the trade deadline. So that's the unique, aspect of all this, is like, who's going to break through. Obviously, Nick Robertson's name comes to mind. Is he going to find a way to be in that top 6? Cowan's going to get a big opportunity. Connor Dewar, who we talked about last week, inking the brand new contract, he's going to get a chance. There's very few sure things, I would say, right now in the bottom 6. And more so, I'm also like curious to see the line deployment, because that's the one thing we brought up quite a bit with Craig Berube, is like, how he made his lines in St. Louis was a lot different than your prototypical coach, where it's like he enjoyed spreading the wealth throughout his lineup.
I know. We could ask Luke about some of that stuff if he could figure out this goddamn link, man. I swear these Schenns, these Sasky boys and their understanding of technology is not ideal. How are we doing back there? Vic, our producer, is scrambling, I think, to get him in here.
Did he get the email, Rosie?
He got the link. He said
Okay.
he says, "Do you see me? I'm in there." And I'm going, not my job, buddy. I'm trying to fill air right now. Calling now. I'm on. Can you see me? I clicked the link and stuff.
Oh, there we go.
Can you guys see me now?
Yes, the human eraser. God, you Schenns never. Maybe we should get Jeff to figure out the goddamn connection stuff for you. Your dad.
Holy smokes. Well, it would be helpful if you give me a heads up. Hey, check your junk email, your junk box.
I can't run your life for you, Lukey. How you doing, buddy?
Sorry, guys. How you doing?
We're good. We're good. Welcome back to the show. You're becoming a consummate guest here throughout the years.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Love breaking it down with you boys. How's summer going?
It's solid, buddy. It's solid. Worked on the tan a little bit out in your part of the woods there near Kelowna, and back at home now, but starting to think a little bit of hockey here. You Nashville Predators have made a bit of a splash. Are you getting excited to start this season or what?
Yeah. Actually, really excited. I mean, just well, summer's flying by. We got to head back to Nashville in like just under 2 weeks. School starts everywhere in the South, like middle of August. So we got to get down there, I think, like August 12th. Yeah, everywhere in the South, like guys who play in Florida and Texas and Missouri and where all those places, school starts early, which, you're a little bit thinking it's a bit premature to get down there early, but you start talking to guys and guys are starting to filter in, guys with school and guys without kids, and just sort of everyone's getting back together. And it used to be, I remember, like you go to camp, September 10th or 15th, but now it just gets earlier and earlier and everyone's kind of fired up to get down there. And it's no different this year for us. But yeah, well, obviously some great additions this off season. And yeah, anytime you see, sort of your roster change overnight on free agency, it's fires you up and motivates you for sure.
Shannon fires me up to have you back on. So great to see that face. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great summer. You talk about Stamkos, man. That's the big one to me that sort of came out of nowhere. First and foremost, how stunned were you that he actually moved on, or that Tampa moved on from him? And number two, what type of role did you play in getting Stammer to Nashville?
Well, first of all, like everyone in the hockey world, you would have to you were thinking he was going to go back to Tampa. Somehow you'd think there'd be a way, right? So and not only, just because he's been there for so long and been the captain and, won there and, first ballot Hall of Famer, the whole list of things that he's achieved, but also he had a really good year. I mean, he had 40 goals last year, and it's not like he's kind of, had a tough year and on the downslope. He was really productive. And, I watched the first round of playoffs this year, and, he was really, really good in playoffs too. So, obviously, change of direction and business gets in the way sometimes, and that's the way it goes. And to see him land in Nashville, obviously really exciting, and to have, I guess your question about having a role in it. Stammer and I are really good buddies. We've played together. I met him back, I think, when we were in under 18s. We were roommates. That would have been 18, 19 years ago, I guess. So we've been really good buddies ever since then. Yeah, that's dating myself, I guess. And then, yeah, obviously playing World Juniors together. We played a couple World Championships together. Our wives are pretty good friends, and obviously to spend the 2 years together in Tampa made us even closer, and continue to be good friends and talk all the time. And then obviously, just being a friend, kind of, having an idea what was going on, obviously talked a little bit. But it's one of those situations where, he's such a smart guy. You don't want to push a guy, especially when the emotion involved of him being in one spot, throughout his whole career. You don't want to be, pushing him one way or another. I think he had to make his own decision, and talked and just kind of shot him straight about the facts about, what Nashville is like. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Obviously he had to make his own decision, what was best for him and his family. But definitely talked throughout the summer, and like I said, it's more of a friendship and good buddies rather than a sales job.
We know how you like to work the phones, human. You're like a GM. Well, you're like a Reg Denlop, except GM/player. That comes with the 17 years of experience you got, buddy. Speaking of which, I don't know if anyone's kind of put this on the radar yet, but you're flirting with a big old number coming up very soon in the season. You're close to 1,000, my man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I started talking about it got brought up last year, and I think as soon as I started talking, I ended up getting injured out of training camp and ended up missing 6 or 7 weeks. So yeah, I try not to talk about it. But I mean, it's obviously, it's like a lot of players. You have certain goals when you enter the league, and I think one of the things was for me is when I got sent down, to the American Hockey League. I think I was about 700 games in or so, and 29 years old, and somehow it's still on my radar to try to climb back and get there. So it's always been a goal, and I just try to, I guess, have longevity in the league. And when you have longevity and try to be consistent and try to get better, you hit certain numbers. So I mean, yeah, I'm not there yet. Still got, training camp to go and a few more games, but for sure
Still got
it's
to make the
something that's,
team, Lukey. Hey, still got to make the team. Still that mentality, hey?
well, no, it's you always fighting for a spot, but it's the other thing too. Everything's got to go right in order to get there too. I mean, so it's yeah, don't take anything for granted. Put it that way, Dose Train. Don't take anything for granted.
Hey,
What
buddy.
did you get to? What did you get to? Let's talk about what are your career numbers there?
I was tickling $120 there. I was getting mighty close. I got cut short though. A lot of
Hey,
scratches. A lot of scratches.
I was gonna say you must have had at least double that in scratches, and that's not a chirp. It's like you had a lot of days on roster, though. Is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I think I was 280 on roster or something, but certainly didn't play them all. But I remember that year, Luke, where you were having a downturn in the American League. You'd never stepped foot in the American League. It was, peaks and valleys with this game, and you were in a valley at the time, and things weren't awesome. I remember talking to you kind of every other day, and you have crawled out of that with some pretty awesome integrity and made something pretty special. So when you do hit that 1,000 silver Twiggy mark, I'll be pretty happy for you, bud.
Well, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we had a lot of good conversations. I remember because I was driving from Newport Beach to San Diego, and I think you were kind of just starting the next chapter in your life too, if I remember
Yeah, I was just
correctly.
retired.
Exactly. So yeah, we had some good conversations then. Obviously, a lot of good conversations sitting together on the plane for those few years in Toronto and Philly, and continued on for my car drives to San Diego and back. You'd be good call to have for me and break things down. So no, it's good to have like that, and you surround yourself with good people. It always helps out, and if and when it happens, I expect you to make the trip.
We'll see if I can get time off. Leafs morning take.
Well,
I was just gonna say I
you
can
did
comfortably
surprise me
say
last
in
year.
pardon
You
me.
did surprise me last. No, I was going to say Jay did make a surprise appearance last year to Nashville, and we ended up at the Bluebird Cafe together. So
That was a nice
you're
little evening, wasn't it?
you're probably due for another trip.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to tell you, Schenner, as well. There's been our company does these things called Nation Vacations, where essentially we bring some of our podcast listeners along with us on the road. And I think it's going to be Nashville when the Leafs visit there in March. So we'll try to link up with you, try to do some podcast stuff, maybe bringing us around town a bit. But that would be a lot of fun to circle back to that. I was just going to get in and tap into your post career. I think obviously you have a lot left in the tank, but have you given any consideration to what you want to do after your career on the ice is done, like GM, scout, insider, maybe?
Scout.
No. I mean, obviously you give it some thought. You're always thinking about it. Even I think, when you first enter the league, what your post playing career is going to look like, but I haven't nailed anything down yet. I mean, yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you stay in hockey, whether it's on the management side or whatever, it's a big, talking to a lot of buddies who are now done playing and who are on that management side or coaching side of things. It's a bigger time commitment than it is playing, obviously, with all the, trips you got to make overseas to go watch players, or, down to the American League or go watch junior levels. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't really crossed that bridge. And I think the biggest thing is if you do go down that path, you don't want to be stuck working with someone that, you don't see eye to eye with. It's a lot of relationship based and trust and stuff like that. So no, I haven't really put, a ton of thought into it. And I think obviously it'd be nice to have some stability. I've played in a lot of places over the years too, so you don't want to get caught moving around everywhere either. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see whether it's in hockey or whether it's not in hockey. got some young kids and stuff like that too. So it'd be nice to kind of pay a little more attention to them, but we'll see where I end up. And the nice thing is it'll be nice to, I think have a few options when I'm done.
Lukey, onto the
The
Leafs a little bit.
insider's not on the list, though. The insider's not on the list.
I can imagine you grinding it out as a scout 28 days in the bloody junior rink. I can see that happening for sure.
Actually, our good buddy, actually, I'm at my son's got a little hockey camp this week in Kelowna, and Cody Franson's scouting now with Nashville, and he just lives down the street from us. And
franchise.
he's out of town scouting in Calgary, and I just picked up his little boy to bring him out to hockey too. So yeah, the scouting, it never ends. Like, I mean, I think he's scouting in Calgary this week and under 18s next week in at Edmonton. So that's a grind, but obviously it's rewarding when you put in the work and you get the right one and help the team. But it's a lot of days on the road for sure.
For sure. Moving on to the Leafs a little bit, Luke, you've got the unique perspective of knowing the Maple Leafs dressing room intimately, and you've also been coached by Craig Berube. So that's kind of a big, change in that locker room. Based on what you know on both sides of things, how do you think that's going to change things in that locker room?
Yeah, I mean, you played for Chief too, right? Was he your assistant or head coach? Yeah. So I mean, you got the same perspective as me. I think he's a great coach. I mean, he says it like it is. There's no sugarcoating anything. He just kind of what you want in a coach, or personally, it's someone that's like black and white and just no gray area. You know where you stand all the time. Shoots you straight. If you're not playing good, he's going to let you know. If you're playing good, sometimes he'll leave you alone, or sometimes he'll come up to you and say, keep going, whatever it is. So I think it's good. And I think it's good in that market too.
I know. I think we lost you, Schenner. Maybe we try to fix that. We'll get him back in here. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting from that perspective, Berube and what he does with this team, right? And some of the guys, I thought they bring in more guys as well, Rosie, who actually were familiar with him. But I guess it's tougher to do than you would think, right?
Yeah, you can't really work that, and it's at the end of the day, that's not the most important thing. It's just what he's going to do. He needs a little bit of time to get to know guys and whatnot, and like Luke says, like there's no manipulation, there's no mind games, there's no shade here and there, any of that bullshit with Chief. It's straight up and down, and I mean, players know if they're playing well and if they're playing bad, and sometimes this day and age with the younger kids, it's probably a little bit more delicate. Like back in the day, it was like, I just got to crack the whip on this guy, light a fire under his ass and get him going. Pretty simple. Nowadays, there's probably a little bit more coddling, a little bit more, nurturing and all the bullshit for these young kids that they need all that BS. But that's all great and fine. He's obviously knows how to do that. He's been coaching the league very recently, everything else. But I'm just excited for him to get to know the players. And then like Luke says, you go up to a guy, you leave him alone, let him do his thing, let him cook. Or you go up to him and, they'll pat on the back, hey, stroke him a little bit. Whatever needs to happen, I think he's going to get used to those players and start to apply that.
Luke, you want to finish that point?
You figure out how to keep your phone. You figure out how to keep your phone straight up and down, Lukey?
You know what? When you guys make that trip to Nashville this year for the Leafs game, we do a pod live. We won't have these audio issues, so hopefully you can figure that out better than I can.
Shit. Well, hey, what else about there's some holes in this roster this year, Luke, with depth and whatnot. And then they got the core four together still. What do you think that team needs to kind of get over the hump? Is it a mental thing, or is it a personnel thing, or what do you see in this year out of the Maple Leafs?
I think we lost them again.
Yeah, go on with your day, Lukey. We got lots.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
He's turning it sideways.
No, I don't think it's that. I think he might have got a call during the interview. Oh. And that's why it changed the layout.
All good. Nonetheless, he can't see. He can see and hear us. No worries. He's texting me.
It's
no
okay.
worries.
Yeah.
All good. Luke Schenn obviously thought we were going to get through. It was so smooth and so
I know. I was
so
feeling
precise.
good about
I was like,
it,
finally he's got some good connection things going on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but it's all good. You can tell a guy that's been around a little bit, and that's kind of the big thing for me is the Chief thing. Like, obviously we're running it back again, right? We've got the same 4 core guys. We've got we've doled up the defense. You there, Lukey? He's kind of there. You're back, Luke. Last try here. Oh, it's
Luke, are you there?
I can hear you guys.
Okay, we got your back. Hey, we'll let you go if we're having issues here, but just before we go, on the back end, we've got a lot of... He's gone. Okay, we'll cut it.
All right,
I'm going to fucking snap here, so that's all good. Jesus, fucking computers, man.
We were doing so well. We were doing really, really well.
I know. I thought we were hitting a home run this time.
It's okay. Our thanks to Luke Schenn for dropping by. As mentioned, we plan on going to Nashville potentially as part of a nation vacation, and we'll tell you right now, if we can do it, we'll do a live podcast with Schenner on location, so there will be no more issues Wi-Fi wise. We were doing well there, man. The connection was awesome. I was fired up.
I know, even our producer's like, tell him not bother to come back. It's too painful. All good. It's not live, is it? Oh, yeah. He's like, that wasn't live, was it? Oh, you bet it was. All good. Hey, we'll wrap her up. But thanks to Luke Schenn for coming in. I am sure that he's just finding out for the first time that he's going to be our tour guide down there. But I'm sure we'll get him on. We'll get an interview with the enemy before the game. That'll be interesting. Yeah. And I'm sure it'll be nice being live where we don't have these issues.
Yeah, he's a great talker too. I just think shooting the shit with Schenner, maybe, who knows, by then I think we'll have access to video and stuff like that. I think it'd be really cool to maybe take a spin down Broadway with Schenner and him just show us around a bit. I think that idea would be really, really cool content wise for the YouTube page. Who knows, maybe he can get the Fact Daddy Ryan O'Reilly out in the mix too. I know Carter Hutton, we're going to try to get him there, former Nashville Predators. So we're really, really looking forward to that. I believe that's in mid-March to late March. The Leafs on the road in Nashville. And as mentioned, I think our nation vacation is going to be in Nashville. So many thanks to Luke Schenn for dropping by the show. I just love shooting the show with him. I love when players are like really dialed into the league. Obviously, you play in the league. There's a lot of guys who like to unwind and don't want to be part of the hoopla and the mix. He loves every part of it. Like I wanted to get to the whole Leafs conversation with Marner because there was rumors that Ryan O'Reilly had tried to persuade Barry Trotz to trade for Mitch Marner. I'm sure Schenner wouldn't give us anything, but I will say he gives us a lot more now than he did the first time he did the interview on the show. Remember that? He wouldn't say anything.
I think I was giving it to him for giving us the prototypical John Tavares answers, but no, Lukey, he wouldn't give us anything on that as far as wheeling and dealing on certain guys that would change the course of the team and the moves that they did make. He's a smart PR guy. He understands the whole game, but no, there's no question that guy likes to, you can sit down with him and shoot the shit and BS and talk. And I remember when I got into, to Toronto, you'd go over to one of their houses or whatever for some dinner, and him and Braden are just clicking through the NHL network, watching every game. They literally know every single guy in the league. And I'm just like, geez, you guys, like this is insane. I think they've toned down a little bit being busy with their families and kids and whatnot. But there was a time there where we're just put on Chell. And they were like, and that's why they have so many connections. That's why they have so many relationships. That's why, they know so much about the league. And personally, in my opinion, it would be, a great thing for Luke to be a GM one day. I don't know if that's down his alley or not. Like you say, he's been moving around a lot, and it'd be nice to have some roots and some stability, but he's a guy who could do it for sure.
Good man and a good family. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I think keeping with the theme of Luke Schenn, maybe you sprinkle a bit of coin on Nashville to win the Central Division. How about that for a bet?
I like that bet. I like that. I like the futures too that hang out in the bottom of your bet slip all year, and they're just looking juicier and juicier if you pick a good one. So I don't mind that at all.
I actually hate those, man. I had a bunch of those on the awards, as I told you guys behind the scenes, and it was so painful waiting those like 5 or 6 months for those to hit. I hope to do the same thing again because I hit on all those in like November. Granted, you're sprinkling a bit here and there, but it's painful for me to just have to wait all those months to finally get the payout,
I know what you mean, but when it's, plus 2,500 and then,
good,
the months tick by and all of a sudden it's creeping up and you're like, oh yeah, nice little payday. When they hit, they're pretty awesome. That's why you just kind of sprinkle a little bit, but yeah, it's nice to try to feel like you got the edge before Vegas really gets its fingers on the pulse and see if you can slip one in under the radar. But those are the long plays. That's the point there, Nicky. You gotta wait. You gotta wait to be rewarded.
I'm impatient and I'm still chuckling over you. Just like I felt like I was mid-game Jay Rosehill as a Toronto Maple Leaf where somebody hit a guy in your team and you were about to just dance. That's how you felt with technology at the end of that Luke Schenn interview. So I'm happy we're past it.
After the third connectivity
You were losing
issue
it.
and us stalling like morons on live show, I was ready to punch a laptop, but we're all good. We're all good.
Hey, we're good. Post playing days for Jay Rosehill. We're zen now. We're zen on this show. So many thanks to Luke Schenn for dropping by. Everybody in the chat, you guys are fantastic. Thanks for hanging with us on like July 30th. We're halfway there, folks. As mentioned, 71 days away from puck drop. We're going to be back with you on Thursday, where I can guarantee you there's going to be no tech issues. We hopped on with Anthony Stolars on Monday, so we're going to have that interview coming up on Thursday, Rosie.
Stoley the goalie. Yeah, that's going to be the nickname. I called him Stoltender the goaltender, and solid guy. I called him that in the intro and had to redo it. That's how
So the
ingrained.
backstory on this, for people who don't know the backstory on this, obviously I, more times than not will introduce the guest. It just shows you not the difficulties of the position, but your mind's always got to be moving. But when we have people that Rosie knows like in depthly, I like him to start the interviews, but I do the same shit, man, where it's like you sort of forget what to say in the moment. You know the person inside and out, but you can't put the sentence and the phrase together. I get it, man.
Oh, you're better than me at it, and it's more difficult than it looks. And when you do it well, it looks easy. But I'm finding that if you have a plan, it's gonna hurt you. Just abandon it and just freewheel seems to be the best.
It's okay. We like to mix in a laugh or two on this podcast. So hope everybody enjoyed it at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. Thank you to producer Vic as well. Don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com, and also don't forget to find us wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.